The art of Terry Adkins is a symphony of form, film, history, and more. Adkins was also a musician, and he referred to his projects as recitals. So it's only fitting this exhibit at the Pulitzer Arts Foundation is titled Terry Adkins Resounding. Stephanie Weisberg is the Pulitzer's associate curator.
He said in his work that his quest was to make sculpture as ethereal as music was and music as physical as sculpture is. So that idea plays out in many, many of his works.
Works like Last Trumpet, created in 1995. A tribute to his late father, Last Trumpet is actually 4 trumpet-like sculptures Adkins called acrophones.
They're 18-foot long horns that are made from a combination of parts of sousaphones and trumpets, and they were played many times throughout Atkins' life by members of his performance group called the Lone Wolf Recital Corps.
A lone wolf bass drum is part of a sculpture inspired by a civil rights march in New York City more than a century ago that had a connection to East St. Louis.
The work Muffled Drums is from a recital dedicated to W.E.B. Du Bois, and the title references the silent protest parade of 1917, which the New York Times described thousands of people marching through the streets demanding equal rights and racial justice to the beat of muffled drums. And that protest was in part inspired by the 1917 East St. Louis riots, in which numerous black residents were killed at the hands of a white mob. In addition to the 40-some works by Adkins that we have on view, we're also really excited that we are able to bring together over 100 objects that he collected and lived with that informed his thinking and his artistic practice. So we have almost 20 instruments that he collected from around the world. He was an avid collector of musical instruments. He often played these instruments and lived with them in his home. And we also have dozens of his books. He collected books in multiples and was incredibly inspired by them, oftentimes used them as a point of departure for his works.
Adkins created his 1993 sculpture, High Point, from rusted railroad stakes and plates he found near Greensboro, North Carolina. The piece was inspired in part by Adkins' interest in the network of trains that transported goods from the region's furniture, textile, and coal industries. Along the train route is the North Carolina city of High Point, where one of Adkins' musical idols, John Coltrane, grew up. The legendary jazz saxophonist is paid tribute in Terry Adkins' piece titled Infinity, which includes dozens of copies of one of Coltrane's albums nestled in a vintage trunk. Adkins' works have been exhibited at New York City's Metropolitan Museum of Art and other notable museums. The Washington, D.C. native died of a heart attack in 2014 at the age of 60. At the time, he was a highly respected professor of fine art in the School of Design at the University of Pennsylvania.
I really miss working with him on these projects.
Matthew Neff directs the undergraduate programs in fine arts and design at the university. Neff was a colleague of Professor Adkins and a former student of his.
He would describe his research as an artist as a way to kind of sort of open up history, and sort of bring to life these buried histories.
This is a piece called Divine Mute.
That's the voice of Terry Adkins speaking at the Smithsonian in 2013 about this sculpture inspired by one of America's most prominent abolitionists. Divine Mute was exhibited both at the Smithsonian and the Pulitzer.
What I tried to do is to make a symbolic body of work in an installation setting that pays tribute to the aspects of John Brown. So I guess you could say it's an abstract kind of portraiture.
It's that perspective that has cemented Terry Adkins' legacy in the world of modern art. For Living St. Louis, I'm Ruth Ezell.